How's it going, everyone? So I'm going to go over why is your machines, your small engine, lawnmower, pressure washer, smoking. So let's go ahead, sit down. I'm going to recreate a couple of them for you. This one isn't smoking, but I want to kind of show you what it looks like. So go ahead, sit down, and let's watch it. First things first, what color is your smoke? The one that is detrimental to engine is like a blue. That means oil. If it's white or black, now this is completely different for vehicles. This is only for small engine. If you have white smoke coming out of your exhaust pipe, you probably have a coolant leak. But for small engines, unless you have a cooling system, which majority of them don't, white just means there was moisture somewhere, either in the cylinder, in the air filter, maybe in the throat of the carb, even in the muffler. It doesn't really matter. White smoke will mean moisture. That one's really not that big of an issue, especially for a machine like this. It will burn off, it will get hot, it will go away. So if you turn it on and you see white smoke, now it has to be white, and you get concerned, you turn it off and you still see billowing white smoke, don't worry about it. Check your oil level just to be safe, and if it's level, it's normal, then go right ahead, keep running it. It's not going to be a problem, it'll go away. Black smoke. Black smoke is a fuel issue. Now, there's going to be a couple causes of this. I'm going to leave one towards the end. So if you have black smoke, stay tuned to the end for the final one. It's going to be the least common, but it might be the one you're having. Commonly, it's going to be a improper carburetor, or a broken carburetor, or potentially if you had work done on your carburetor, your jetting's off. If you had no work done and you just put fuel in there and you turn it on and it's pumping out black smoke, majority of the time, if you have a choke, it's on. Look at your machine. If you have a manual choke, make sure to turn it off, and look at the cable. Make sure the cable, if you have a manual choke, is still moving and it's turning off. You can actually see the mechanism turn off on majority of the machines if you have a manual choke. If your cable's not moving, choke is left on, buy a new cable, should be fine. If it is moving, potentially there's something wrong with the mechanism. Look at it, see if something's bent, torqued, missing. You never know. But if you have auto choke like this machine, if you look at the handle, there's no choke mention anywhere, and you can kind of tell if you look at it. If it says ready to start or whatever, sometimes it means you have an auto choke. But basically, if you don't see any choke or a button to prime anywhere, then you have an auto choke. It's just what happens. These engines don't run without a choke unless they're primed, and if you're not priming it, it's going to be choked. More likely than not, there's something wrong with your auto choke. So what you can do is you can take off the air filter. There we go. Take a screwdriver and very carefully try to move the plate. If it moves, and it's not stuck, then the mechanism that controls it is broken or frozen, filled with dirt, don't know. You're going to have to disassemble and kind of figure out what happens. If you have a Briggs & Stratton, this is very common. You have to take off the whole cover, including not only the plastic, but the metal piece underneath it. And what happens is there's an arm that moves back and forth, controlling the choke. A lot of times those arms get just full of crap, or they get corroded. You have to buy a new mechanism. It's really cheap. You put it on, done. Now, you don't need to do that. You can manually start it with like carb clean, starter fluid, whatever. But that's above and beyond the scope of this video. If you're experiencing black smoke, it's a fuel issue. The other common issue, if your choke is working, everything is fine, everything moves fine, you took everything apart, it looks like it's not frozen, it could be your bowl or your carburetor itself is having issues. So before you disassemble your whole choke system, if you see fuel piling out or leaking on the bottom, if you've put your finger down on the bottom of the carburetor right here, or more importantly, if you see fuel coming out, that's a problem. What's happening there is this is fed by gravity, and there's a float in there that will actually guide or control the level of fuel. If that fuel isn't being controlled, it's just going to keep on dumping, and it's either going to come out of the bowl or it's going to come out of the throat. Where the throat is right here, the bowl is right here. That's this shinier part. So if you're having a problem where you turn it off, you're kind of leaking, and then when you turn it on, you have black smoke, more likely than not, your float or your needle or something isn't playing well. You either need to clean it or you need to replace it. Cleaning is probably the better solution, but if you don't want to deal with that nonsense, you just want to replace it, go right ahead. I'm not going to judge. Next is the big one, the kind of bad one. So blue smoke, that's oil. So what we need to do, very first thing you do when you see blue smoke, is turn it off and check your oil level. Now we're not going to just check the oil level, we're going to check the oil. Majority of machines run at 1030, and especially if it's cold, it's going to be a little thicker. Like right now, there's enough oil to check the level on it, but it's not dripping on my hand. If it's dripping on your hand and seems very thin, smell it. I know you may not know what oil smells like, but if it smells like gas, that's a problem. That could be 100% your problem right there. If you smell any gas in there, I know as a carbureted engine, you're going to have a little bit of fuel contamination, I get it. But you shouldn't be able to smell it very easily. It means, same thing, your carburetor is having a problem. The same problem we mentioned before, except sometimes it doesn't come out the front, it goes in the motor. And when it goes in the motor, it goes into the piston. Fuel is very thin. It can easily get past the piston rings, and it can go into where your oil sits. And then eventually, over the course of time, it overfills the motor. The piston itself isn't always touching the oil. There's a little reservoir. Once it starts moving, it kind of spins it and spits it around and moves it, lubricating everything adequately. If the oil level is too high, then oil will start to seep past the rings, oil and fuel mix, by the way, and then it will go into the combustion and will start to burn. And when it starts burning, these don't have catalytic converters or anything. So because it doesn't have anything like that, if it's burning oil, you're going to notice. So check to see that. Next is we need to see how it's burning the oil. Let me show you something. So this machine doesn't burn oil, but I want to show you something. I'm going to take a little bit of WD-40. I'm going to put it right here. That's going to do, it's going to replicate what you're going to see. What I want you to pay attention to, I'll move it a little bit more so it's easier to see, is the slow billowing of smoke. Okay, so I put a little oil through where it gets air and burn the oil. sput it out. However, I want you to pay attention. There is no smoke coming off the muffler. Now, consequently, if we do the exact opposite, we put it in there, let's see what happens. Now this machine is hot. Let's turn it back on. But this is exactly what I wanted to convey. A little bit of smoke is coming on after you turn it off. Not when it's running, but after you turn it off. If this is what you see, and again, check the oil level, make sure it's fine, but more likely than not, you probably just have oil in your muffler. If it is low, put some more in, make sure, maybe you tipped it over, who knows. Maybe just going down the hill, or how you store it, I don't know. But oil can seep in there. And when that happens, you get this. When the muffler's hot, or when it's running, you'll get a little bit of smoke. So if you see a little bit of smoke all the time, turn it off and see if it continues to billow out. If it's burning oil, it's not going to continue to billow out for a long time. Maybe a couple seconds, if that. It's still smoking right now. So, if you see that, that's a good thing. Now, unfortunately, if you see a constant supply of smoke and you turn it off and it stops, or at least for very quickly it stops, maybe, like I said, a couple seconds, more likely than not, you're burning oil. And if your fuel doesn't smell like oil, or if your oil doesn't smell like fuel, you either have something going on with your engine or it's worn out. Common culprits are going to be this: valve guides, piston rings. Those are pretty much the common occurrences. Now there are others, but it's going to be a little hard to go over. So more likely than not, you're going to need to do some type of rebuild. You can buy products like ring seal and all that. It might work momentarily for a short period of time. Just plow that nonsense in there. You might get another couple months out of it, but it's not going to work well for a long time. And it's going to be low in power. If that's another thing, if you are low in power, that's just instantly you should know it's worn. So at that moment in time, you really have to kind of wonder what your next step is. Full rebuild. If you don't want to deal with that nonsense, buy a new one, buy a new motor, whatever you want to do. But it's important to distinguish if it's just billowing out of the muffler or if it's billowing out of the motor. Now you could do compression tests, you could do leak down tests, you could do all that stuff, but if you're watching this, you probably don't have that equipment, and to be honest, you probably don't need it. This is going to be enough to determine what it is. If it's a valve guide, that's easy enough, not that big of a problem, but you don't know if it is. So you could try this ring sealer, see if it works, go right ahead, but no. Now, here is, for the people who are continuing to watching this video, there is another common problem that can cause this issue, and that's called a blown head gasket. Let me show you. Now, you let this machine run for a couple minutes, like I have. As soon as you turn it off, what you're going to want to do is this: open your oil fill, or your oil. Take out the dipstick. We're not going to look at that. What we want to do is actually look in here. If there's smoke coming out of there, then that is a good sign that you have combustion going into your crankcase. And what that means, at least on the overhead valve engines like this, or overhead cam, or overhead valve, there is a opening that can get pressurized when that happens. So your cylinder should be completely sealed. The head goes on top of the head gasket, and then your head, actually, to allow oil and everything go up top and lubricate everything that's moving, will have an opening that goes down into the end of your motor, or inside of your motor, into the oil. If that head gasket is blown, then that compression is being pressed into your oil or your sump, your oil container, whatever you want to call it. And when that happens, this gets pressurized. And one of two things will occur, or maybe even both. You'll get oil going through your crankcase vent. There's usually a little hose somewhere that's connected to your air filter housing. And then you'll start to have constant oil going into there and being burned and having a lot of smoke. Or there'll be so much pressure where the oil actually, or the motor actually gets pressurized, and oil will start to go past the rings, constantly being burned. So if you see smoke coming out of your oil fill when you first turn it off, definitely want to check your head gasket. So hopefully that helped you out. If you see, let's just recap: white smoke, probably water, unless you have a radiator somewhere and you have a big machine, not a problem, just let it burn. Black smoke, overage of fuel of some type. Something I didn't mention, which it could be, kind of rare, but it could be, your coil or your spark plug could be failing, and if that's the case, then it's not igniting the fuel properly. You may want to change your plug, and if that doesn't fix it, look at your coil. Assuming that you've already looked at your carburetor, of course. If you did everything and you're still having that problem, look at your ignition system. And then finally, the blue smoke, the bad one. Hopefully it's just your carburetor, but if it's not, then at least you know, hopefully, some route that you can take to get it fixed. Look at your crankcase vent, see if it's super oily. You can also just look inside your air filter housing and see if they're super oily. It shouldn't be oily. It should be moderately oily at best. At best. Moderate is a pretty heavy word for that. So if you see all that, or if you don't see all that and it's just constantly burning oil and you don't see it billowing out of the muffler, unfortunately you have a blown motor or a worn motor. So I'm going to go ahead and leave you at that. Follow me on Instagram at SmallEngine101. If you like what you see, keep watching, subscribe. Definitely leave a thumbs up. That's helped you out. Definitely helps me out. And I'll catch you on the next video. You have a good night.